All right, everybody, welcome to the Solidarity Lowell May meeting. This meeting is being recorded. It will be put on YouTube and on LTC. By staying in the meeting, you consent to both. The timekeeper is Shrivan. Please be mindful of time limits. Note taker is Marissa Dupont. To speak, please use the raise hand function in Zoom or type an asterisk into the chat and wait to be called on. Stacker is Ryan Oates. Captions are available. You just have to turn them on for yourself. Step up, step back. So if you tend to talk a lot, step back to make room for other people. If you tend to not say anything, please come forward and contribute to the conversation if you feel comfortable. Always assume positive intentions. If your words do cause hurt, the hurt person says ouch, and you can acknowledge this by saying oops. Please speak slowly. Here's our agenda for today. 5:30-ish. Attendee intros and land acknowledgement. 5:40 about Solidarity Lowell news and committee updates. 5:40 allied organizations updates. 6:15 our featured speaker, Maroni Minter from MIRA, and 6:55 wrap up. So we'll start with introductions, getting to know you. Please introduce yourself, your name, your pronouns, where you live, and the question of the day is, what were you doing at 23 years old? Starting with myself, Chris Opperman, pronouns she, her, hers. I live downtown Lowell, and when I was 23, I was a student at the University of Hamburg, and at the same time, since I had to make some money, I was a team leader with a local market research company. And the funny part is that we didn't use the term team leader, we used the term organizer. So at 23, my official job title was already organizer. I guess it stuck. And I'm gonna go through the room first, and then we'll go to the people on screen. So moving on to the person next to me.
Ron Peastree, my pronouns are he, him. I live in Lowell, near the reservoir. At 23, I had about 24 suits, was living out of cars, trains, and planes, and was doing consulting programming. I carried a custom Dvorak keyboard, and I could type about 125 words a minute.
Excellent.
My name's Mitchell Paul. ACLU. I live in the Acre in Lowell. At 23, I finished my undergraduate degree, and I worked for a while for a construction company.
My name is Ryan Oates, pronouns he, him. I live in Pawtucketville, and at 23, I just graduated with my master's in education. I actually just moved to Lowell at that time, and I was starting my first year as a teacher after doing my student teaching remotely because it was COVID.
Yeah.
So I had never really just had a classroom to myself at that time, and so I was just kind of going for it.
Amy Baranowski, she, her, hers. I live in the downtown Acre-ish area. At 23, I had graduated the year prior, and I was renting an apartment a crappy apartment with 3 other friends in downtown Worcester, and we were all sort of lamenting college graduation, and none of us wanted careers yet, so we were all just scraping money and hanging out, and it was kind of fun.
My name is Ryan Hammond. My pronouns are he, him. I also live in the Acre. And at 23, I was still living with my parents, still going to university, and working at a fast casual diner, and going to concerts on the weekends pretty much.
Dan O'Connor, I'm a Dracut resident, just up the road. At 23, I was starting my second year at the Department of Transitional Assistance, but at that time, it was the Welfare Department as a social worker.
Joseph Boyle, he, him, I live in Lowell Highlands. At 23 years old is when I first left and got an internship in a planning office for the first time in Fitchburg. Starting out as an unpaid intern and eventually getting into a really terrible salary and falling in love with urban planning. So that was the year it all started.
Excellent. Okay, I'll call on people on the screen as they appear on my screen here. Marissa, you're next.
Hi, everyone. Marissa DuPont, she, her, hers. I live in South Lowell. At 23, that was actually 2001 for me. So that was kind of a big year. I graduated from Emerson College with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Writing, Literature, and Publishing. And then I attended the NYU Summer Publishing Institute, where I spent 9 weeks living at the NYU dorm and studying the book and magazine publishing industries. And then I tried to find a job there and couldn't. And so I ran out of money and had to move back home. And then 9/11 happened. And I ended up working at a company doing surveys for cable, which was very low stress, which was good. That's it.
All right, Trayvon, you're next.
Hello everyone, my name is Trayvon, pronounced she or her. I live in Bike Central. At 23, I still live with my mom. I work at the garment factory at a union, and also after that I work with the ILO, International Labour Organization. My job like negotiation between the employer and employee, the government employee.
Right, thank you. Don, you're next.
John Grossman, he, his. I live in Pawtuckettville. At 23, I became a government employee in Massachusetts, working for the Department of Mental Health as a mental health assistant 1.
Right. Ozo, yeah.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So I'm Ozo, he, him. I live at the Lowell Transitional Living Center. And as far as what I was doing at 23, I plead the fifth.
Okay, and Caroline.
Hi everybody, Caroline Snow, she, her. I live in Centerville, and at 23, I had just graduated with an accounting degree, so I was working at a nursing home as the receptionist, front desk person, and accountant.
Right, thank you. I think that was everybody. Did I miss anybody?
Yeah, you got 2 more, Michelle and Linda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yes, that's the second screen. Okay. Michelle, in that case.
Everybody, Michelle, pronouns she, her. I live in Lowell's Acre neighborhood. And the day before I turned 23, I'd gone on my first date with Mitch Paulin. So from there, I was getting to know Mitch and Lowell, and I liked them both, so I stayed. That's what I was doing when I was 23.
Excellent.
You win.
Yes, you definitely win. And Linda. Oh, Linda, you're muted. We can't hear you. Okay, maybe we'll get back to Linda later. Yes. Okay. That was that part. Now we're getting to the land acknowledgement. Here in Lowell, we stand. I'm reading the whole thing? No, I'm reading the long thing. Okay, the Solidarity Lowell land acknowledgement. We must acknowledge that the land in Lowell is that of the Pennacook. However, acknowledging the Pennacook as sovereign of this land is complex. After rampant colonization carried out through genocide, biological warfare, slavery, and other inhumane methods, the Pennacook were no longer present in Lowell. by the beginning of the 18th century. This in no way means that there is no longer any Native American presence in Lowell. Local indigenous people will refer to themselves as Pawtucket, Abenaki, Wamasett, or even Pennacook, indicating the long and intricate history of this place. The current Native American population here is a testament to the resilience of the indigenous people, as well as their venerated connection to the land. Only when we acknowledge this land and its history properly are we able to understand how to recover from an unjust past. This is why we begin with this statement. Please educate yourself further on the indigenous presence and contributions to Lowell or wherever you consider your home. We are living on land that was stolen, and by educating ourselves and connecting with our local indigenous groups and organizations, we together can work on creating a more equitable community that works for us all. And what is Solidarity Lowell? Solidarity Lowell is a volunteer group of Greater Lowell community members working towards social justice by defending the rights, dignity, and equality of all against hate and discrimination. We are a chapter of Progressive Mass and the Merrimack Valley Project affiliate. And I don't know how that happened. The Solidarity Lowell Coordinating Committee is your elected team running the meetings, organizing events, disseminating relevant events, and sharing calls to action. The Coordinating Committee elections were held in April. If you're interested in joining, please email contact@solidaritylowell.com. And this is the 2025-26 Coordinating Committee. No, I'll just look at it. Yeah, do that. Okay, moving on to victories, which is always the most pleasant part of the whole meeting. Recent victories that we are aware of. Massachusetts renters can now petition to seal their eviction records. Progressive Mass has 3 new chapters. Pronounce that name.
You say?
Rumesa Ostrich.
Rumesa Ostrich, a Tufts University student detained by ICE after a student visa was revoked without notification, was released from ICE detention and allowed to return to her Massachusetts residence with no travel restrictions. The Mass House passed an annual budget that included $5 million to fund legal representation for low-income immigrants facing deportation proceedings, the first in Massachusetts. The House also defeated 2 proposed budget amendments that would allow police and courts to voluntarily execute the warrantless detention and transfer of immigrants to ICE upon request, which is currently prohibited by Massachusetts law. After 6 months of trying to overturn the results of the election by challenging 65,000 votes from mostly Black and young voters, Republican Jefferson Griffin conceded the 2024 North Carolina Supreme Court election. And the US Supreme Court issued a 7-1 ruling against deportations under the Alien Enemies Act. Who else has anything positive that they would like to share? Good.
The town of Ashby, Massachusetts now has a multifamily zoning district because of the MBTA Communities Act.
Yay.
More to come.
Anybody else that would like to share any positive news? Anybody online? All right. Then we will move right along. We are in the process of having meetings with our state representatives, which is something as a chapter of Progressive Mass that we are doing every year. We have held meetings with Reps Howard and Hahn, and we're scheduling meetings with our other rep and state senator to talk about the progressive mass agenda and other important issues to Lowell. If you would like to join any of these meetings, please let us know. For Rep. Elliott, please contact Ryan Oates. For Senator Kennedy, please contact Joe Boyle. All are welcome, but constituents are especially encouraged. Okay, revitalizing our Immigrant Rights Committee. We're basically just collecting information. Yeah, it is my time to talk about that one. So the big thing that happened, there is a statewide loose immigrant justice network. They have been collecting signatures on the petition for a few weeks. And last Thursday, they held a rally in Boston and delivered that petition to the State House, which is calling on Governor Haley to mount a stronger state response to the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. The petition urged Governor Haley to declare U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, a rogue agency operating outside the bounds of the law. I don't believe we have a response from Haley on that yet, but we are waiting, and I'm sure we will find out. What was noteworthy that in the short time that the petition circulated, it was just a few weeks, more than 2,500 individuals and over 130 organizations signed on in support of the petition. Solidarity Lowell signed on as an organization, as I believe several of our members did individually. If you would like to know more about what the Loose Immigration Network, Justice Network is doing, they are at www.loosemass.org. If you have any other questions, ideas, or anything relating to immigrant rights, please contact me, Chris at solidaritylowell.com. In relation to that, since ICE has been very active in Massachusetts in the last few weeks and has been in Lowell a number of times, there is a hotline to call. If you see or suspect anything that looks like a group of ICE, DHS, that's Department of Homeland Security, FBI, federal agents, or other unidentified suspicious activity which is going on in your community, and don't be shy, report anything you see. This is why there is this centralized hotline, so people don't take unilateral action and maybe get into trouble, but report everything to the loose hotline. They have trained verifiers that they will send out to make sure what it is that is going on there. You'll see the loose hotline on the screen here. Please save that number now. You never know what you're going to see when. 617-370-5023. The hotline operates from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. And that's important because the ICE is usually coming into a community very, very early in the morning, like at 3 or 4 a.m. They stage somewhere out of a parking lot because they're trying to get to people that tend to get to their jobs very early, such as people in construction or in restaurants or things like that. So the very early morning hours is when you will most likely see them. If you're interested in volunteering for the hotline or to be trained to become an ICE verifier, somebody that goes out after a report to the hotline, goes out to that location to make sure what it is that's going on there, please visit loosemass.org, where you can sign up to become a verifier or to volunteer for the hotline. Oh, my turn. Okay,
We just like to see.
yes, a new thing that has been coming up in the, also in the last several weeks. That groups throughout the country are organizing what's called No Kings rallies, as in we don't want any kings in this country. And June 14th, which is Flag Day, has been picked as the day where there will be no Kings rallies nationwide, declaring it a day of defiance. You can see where any and all rallies are and what the objectives are and who's organizing it at www.nokings.org. We do have at this point 2 rallies that we're aware of scheduled locally. One in Chelmsford that has been scheduled for a while. It's been advertised on social media and just about any place else. It will be on June 14th, 3 to 4:30 p.m. at Chelmsford Town Commons, which is right in the center of Chelmsford, where you would suspect it to be. There's also a rally being organized in Lowell. They aren't quite that far along yet, but they have determined June 14th from 1 to 3 p.m. And from what I've been able to gather, they have several speakers. They have a few people performing music at the rally, so it should be an entertaining event. The location hasn't quite been confirmed yet because they're waiting on permits. Soon as that location is there, they will advertise their rally and we will post whatever it is that they're posting. Yes, Ron, you have a question?
Actually, it's both a follow-up to what you just said and something that should have been mentioned during the good news. The organization that's doing all of No Kings things is called 5051, 50501. And it is a super organization that has memberships from Progressive Massachusetts, Indivisible, Our Revolution. A lot of people have come. So you can find them at 50.50.1.org. And they are definitely worth paying attention to. They're very, very sharp. They know what they're doing. And they're the main organizer for all of this stuff. So if you want the master calendar for what's happening where, that's where to go look.
Okay.
I was gonna add to that. I was in Concord yesterday and I saw that Indivisible in Concord had like yard signs. There was one neighborhood in particular with like a bunch of yard signs saying No Kings rally. Yeah, yeah.
They sold them at the Pollard Beer thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions about the immigrant rights, the hotline, or the No Kings rallies? Any questions online? None that I see.
Caroline.
Caroline.
I just wanted to mention really quick that the loose hotline operators, it functions in various languages, and they are always looking for folks who are multilingual to be able to answer the phones. And they're looking for like niche languages. So like Farsi, for instance, is something that they're looking for, just because folks are more comfortable communicating in their typically in their primary language.
Good point. Yes, thank you, Carolyn. Any other questions or comments on this issue? All right. On. Amy, Mill City messaging.
Me.
Yes, you.
Okay, yeah, we're still doing our monthly postcard writing events at Lala Books, which is 189 Market Street, right downtown. It's the second Thursday of the month, so that's June 12th, from 6 to 8. And yeah, it's a good time to sit and chat and get some postcards done.
Thank you, Amy. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Yes.
For June, do
Yes.
you have like an issue on the table already, or are you kind of still
Not yet.
deciding? Okay.
No. Yeah, because it's hard because it's not really like prime election time right now. So yeah, I don't have one decided yet. Yeah, Ron.
I've got a suggestion.
Yes.
If we haven't heard back from Maura Healy real soon now
Yeah.
about the ice stuff, then those postcards should be added to the blizzard of phone calls and every other meeting
Yeah.
we can to hammer on her that this has to be fixed.
Yeah, that's a good idea, and at the very least, we can always, just be one more postcard for everybody to write, so, yeah,
Yes.
I want them.
yeah.
I want their phone lines breaking under the calls and their
Yeah.
mailbox bags filled
Yeah.
with, yes.
That's a good idea.
I was gonna
Yeah. Yeah.
add too, that we have some of our legislative agenda, we could always, some of our state legislators
Yeah.
that not co-sponsor certain things. we could put
Right.
on that.
Yeah, 2 months ago, I wanted to write to Kennedy about some bill. And then it was a very slow month and nobody, probably, yeah, no, it's a good idea too, yeah, thank you, yeah.
Yes.
When are we supposed to meet with Kennedy?
We'll get.
We're still, yeah.
Okay.
Still trying to set it up.
Oh, wait, we already went by that slide, yeah, we're still trying to
Yes,
set it
we're
up.
still trying to set it up with Kennedy. And
With Elliot.
with Elliot. Don't have any dates on either yet, I assume.
No, we're going back and forth though.
Good.
Progress.
If I can
Yes.
help with that, because I am Elliot's constituents.
Excellent.
Okay, great. Okay. Moving on to the next one. Ryan.
All
Hammond.
right. The next demonstrate, dine, and discuss is on Friday, June 13th at 5:30 p.m. We do not have a topic or a restaurant picked out yet. But if you have ideas or want to make signs, please contact me at ryan@solidaritylowell.com. We will have more info in the not too distant future.
Okay, I'm gonna make a suggestion on that in connection with everything else that's going on and all the rallies and everything.
Mhm.
We could do signs when is it, the June 13th, that is
The day before.
the day before the rallies.
Yeah.
So we could
Advertise the rally.
advertise the rallies,
Yes, I would I would approve of that.
either that or something about in connection with a petition to the governor.
Mhm.
In connection to a petition that ICE is operating outside the law.
Yes.
Mhm.
So,
No reason not to do both, actually.
well, two sets of signs on one rally might get confusing.
Here's all the locations we're gonna be on the 14th complaining about what Maura Healy hasn't done yet.
Yes, I know. Well, so we can think about either one of those.
Mhm.
But those are just two ideas. I'm sure more will come up between now and June 13th, the way it's going. Any other suggestions, ideas, or anything about the next rally that we will hold, the next BVB?
What's the last place we ate dinner?
That was Tasty Dumplings.
So someplace different.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think we can all go to the Egyptian food truck, although it does sound tempting. I don't know what their vegetarian options are like also.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on this? Suggestions? No? The Lowell Together Coalition, Marissa.
Hello. So, as you may or may not know, we are forming a coalition with other local organizations to help flip the city council to have people that are actually going to do good things for the city. We have been interviewing candidates for city council, and we're just starting to interview candidates for school committee. And once we have decided when and if we'll be endorsing, we will be forming support teams for those candidates. So if you would like to get involved, please let me know. Or if you know someone who should run for office, who wants to run for office, who you think should run for office, who we can try to convince to run for office, we'll take them. Please send them over. You can just send those to contact@solidaritylowell.com. And our next meeting is on Monday, June 2nd at 6 p.m. at CMAA in the basement conference room.
Thank you, Marissa. Ron, you have a
Marissa, is the LTC candidate vetting process explicitly dealing with the $5 million cut to the school budget that the city council passed?
We will definitely be asking the school committee folks about that.
Sure.
Yeah, just for clarification, right, so that $4,000 reduction in direct city cash. That was
Million.
4 million.
Sorry, I meant to say million, sorry. In my head, yeah. No, that 4 million, was proposed by city manager Golden, right?
Yes.
And then there was the city council meeting where correct me if I'm wrong, but like the city council asked that he sit down with Superintendent Skinner and work to find a better solution than reducing city cash. Is that more or less?
We could cut his salary by half and
Right.
make a substantial chunk, dent in that.
Yes, I was at that meeting and I was very impressed with Superintendent Skinner and his presentation. He really made a very eloquent point of that this is not an acceptable solution for the Lowell School Committee or even Lowell schools in general.
And any candidate for city council or for a school committee should care about this or at least have an opinion.
Definitely.
I see John Grossman in the chat.
John?
Just pointing out that I don't know if this is really on the agenda here, but the $4 million cut is not really a school committee issue. They're clear that they don't want it. It's the city council candidates that we should be talking to about it because they have the final decision-making power.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Fine. Any other questions, issues, observations on this? Or any of the previous points for that matter?
Yeah, there's some jumping in, sorry, but
Jump right in.
it is exciting that the Lowell Together Coalition has, I mean, we're setting up interviews with candidates and like, you know, sitting down, getting to ask policy questions and trying to figure out, you know, who's gonna make a positive difference in the city. And I just, in the face of all of the things going on federally, like it feels good to be involved with a team of people that are trying to do something. It's pretty cool. So if you want to join us.
And it's something that we feel we can actually make a difference because it is local and it doesn't require a 10 million people effort. It requires maybe a 10 people effort, which is much easier to handle from my point of view. Any other questions or comments on the Lowell Together Coalition? Ryan?
Ozo has his hand up.
Who has a question? Sorry, I'm not seeing both screens. Ozo?
Actually, I'm all set. It was off topic. I'm sorry.
You're not anymore. Okay.
What's that?
So, yeah, we have a phone bank set up for the corporate fair share bill in the State House. So just to kind of summarize what that is, Raise Up Massachusetts, which is the same coalition that brought the millionaires tax to the ballot initiative, which passed and was able to get a lot of really good funding for schools and transit. That same group is working toward this bill, which is titled An Act Combating Offshore Tax Avoidance. And you can see the bill numbers on your screen. And basically what this does is, you know, right now, large corporations, Massachusetts is losing hundreds of $millions each year to offshore corporate tax dodging, where large corporations will take the profits that they made in Massachusetts and they will put it into offshore tax havens like the Cayman Islands or other places that have very low, sometimes 0% corporate taxes, in a way of not having to pay their fair share of Massachusetts taxes. And so basically that leads to less funding for all the services that we need to be able to fund in the state, and an unfair playing field for small businesses that do pay their taxes, you know, do pay their fair share. I see, oh, John put an updated, thank you, John Grossman, for putting updated bill numbers there. So we can update that, because those are the docket numbers, yeah. So we'll get the correct numbers out there. But yeah, so, you know, we got data from the Mass Budget, which is a think tank in Massachusetts. They're very conservative with their numbers, and they project that we would get, if this were to pass, basically we would we would have $400 million a year more in funding from these large corporations. So that would be huge. And they just had a big push to get more co-sponsors, and they're approaching, I think, half of the legislature have co-sponsored this bill, which is huge momentum to make sure that we get this, especially with all of the cuts at the federal level. If anything we can do to have a more progressive tax system that funds services in the state is huge. So it's going to be June 9th. We're going to be calling people, encouraging them to put pressure on Senator Ed Markey to co-sponsor. All of our other legislators have co-sponsored already, which is awesome.
What's Senator Kennedy?
Kennedy.
Is that what I said? Sorry.
Susan Markey.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I was like, wait, this is the state bill.
Big
yeah.
thing, sorry. Over the tongue.
Yeah.
Yes, Ed Kennedy.
Senator Ed somebody.
Yes, no, I have a feeling if it were Mark, we would have sponsored it, but
Yes.
but it's the state level. Senator Ed Kennedy, thank you. Yeah, Russ.
So I do taxes professionally, so I'm gonna weigh in a little bit here. The United States loses between $1 and $2 trillion a year in uncollected taxes between a combination of tax evasion, which is illegal, and tax avoidance, part of which is reasonable, but things like what this is called corporate inversion. 99.99% of us would consider corporate inversion slimy. And just to put it in perspective, the entirety of the student loan debt that everybody's freaked out about is $1.6 trillion. So if we were paying the taxes that we were supposed to be paying in 1 or 2 years, the entirety of that debt could be wiped out just by ordinary tax collection that does not change any of our laws. So if we in Massachusetts can set the standard to get at things like tax avoidance, like corporate inversion, and stop it, that would be a big deal, not just here in Massachusetts, but start something nationwide.
Excellent. Any other questions, comments on this?
Yeah, I see in the chat, John Grossman says Ed Kennedy is not listed as a co-sponsor on the bill's website. So exactly.
Right.
So we're looking to put pressure on him to co-sponsor, since our other legislators have already. So I'll throw the link to that event, Facebook event, in the chat here, so you can join.
Okay, excellent. Yes, that would be an important phone bank to participate in. And it's easy, you don't have to leave your home for it. And Ryan, oh, you're still on.
Oh yeah. So yeah, this is sustainability related. Actually, in this case, not necessarily Sustainability Council, but I just, as an individual, care about the environmental protections. And I know we have John Grossman, who's maybe more an expert on this than I am. So I was wondering, John, would you want to speak to this at all?
Sure. This is a bill that we also had last session, so some of you may remember it. But basically, it would charge the major fossil fuel companies for the climate damage they caused in Massachusetts. There's ways of assessing that. And it would provide, and the funding would be used to address the climate damage, to deal with the floods, droughts, and wildfires, and housing changes and all that stuff that's needed. So in an era where public funding is hard to come by, this bill would actually take the money from the people who should be paying for it, because A, they knew they were causing it when they caused it, and B, they not only didn't they stop what they were doing, but they tried to hide that information from the rest of us. And C, they make zillions of dollars. So we're trying to get that bill through the State House. A similar bill has been passed in the state of New York and also Vermont, and there are several other states that are working on this. So it's an important effort to point the finger in an era where people are fighting over who's going to pay for the transition, to point the finger at the people who really should be paying.
Thank you for that clarification. Any questions on this? No. Not seeing any. Okay, moving on. Caroline, the Rise Coalition, do you have any updates on that?
Yes, thank you. So right now, the Rise Coalition is operating, and we have been in effect for about 3 months, this new version, and it's going really, really well. So we have 3 teams currently: Local Action Team, which I am the co-chair of, the Legislative Advocacy Team, and the Rapid Response. So Legislative Advocacy has been doing a lot of work similar to the Loose Network slide. So in collaboration with them, the Safe Neighborhood Act, and all of those other pieces. Then the Rapid Response Team is going out and letting folks know their rights. Again, also promoting the Loose Hotline, because that is super, super important in today's world. But I'm here to speak for the Local Action Team. And one of the things that we are looking for is folks to help deliver items. So a lot of immigrant and, mixed status household families, and even some folks who just don't like that there's extra, quote unquote, official people in the city, are scared to leave their house. And at the Rise Coalition, we want to make sure that those people are not only surviving, but they're thriving as much as possible. And so we are looking to have folks deliver groceries and, clothes or other things that they may need that they don't feel comfortable going out into the community for, and also bringing some sort of community to them. So there's lots of different ways that we are thinking of doing that. Some are like neighborhood dinners at like a trusted person's house. Another things that we're thinking of doing is like sort of activity kits. So, a bag of coloring if there's a little person in the house, or, things like that. Something that they can do as a family and that's fun, that kind of gives them a pause and a breath from all of the stress that's going on. So we are looking for folks to help with that. And the other piece of the Local Action Team, which is super, super exciting, is we are looking for folks who have connections to places where we can do Know Your Rights training. Ideally, it's a space that'll fit roughly 20 people, and that's it. All we need is that space, and we can help coordinate everything else. Eventually, the idea is that we will have a specifically Know Your Rights team. But right now, because we don't have a lot of folks that aren't wearing 5 hats already, we're going to just keep that within the Local Action Team to ensure that it gets done, because that's something we've already been doing. So we're very familiar with the pattern, and we have a lot of trainers. So, it's kind of a quick setup. So we just need a room, a place, and whatever date works for you. There is no limit on days of the week, time, anything like that. Like, we are just focused on having folks know their rights, have the updated and accurate information. Part of that is, it always keeps changing, and as things get updated for good or for ill. And so that's just the quick overview. I will give you my email address if you're interested, or if you want to connect me with another contact. It doesn't matter where they are. So if it's an organization, a church, a person, I will take as many as I can, and then we will start to have more conversations with our neighbors. Any questions?
Thank you, Caroline. Ron?
Caroline, do people get in touch with you on your personal email address to volunteer to do the grocery shopping and delivery stuff too, or is that a different method?
So right now, one of the things that we are trying to coordinate, in the heat of the moment, is a central email, but right now it would be my personal email, or Nancy at Nancy, Luch, or Liz at Lowell Alliance. So any of those.
You've got mine, add me to the list.
Okie doke. Thank you, Shravan, for the nudge.
All right, anybody else have a comment or question about the RISE Coalition? Joe.
Hi, Caroline. I don't need an answer here, but I really hope there are some good security-minded people involved in setting this up because it has the potential to lead ICE to people.
Absolutely. That is a huge thing that we are thinking about. And Liz, who is at Lowell Alliance, is our person with that. She has had a lot of training by MIRA and other people. And so we have a lot of training on that. And also Luciano has a lot of in the thick of it training is what I like to say, and is very streetwise. So yes, we are very aware of that, but it is, always something good to remember for folks who do want to volunteer that this is, one of my favorite trainings that I went to. A woman who lives in Florida said that they have switched to the Harriet Tubman method. They're not speaking from the hills, but they're speaking, quietly, turning to their neighbors and just quietly saying, what do you need? So I feel like that's really what the RISE Coalition will be doing this summer.
I'm sending you an email too.
Thank you. Any other questions about what the topic Caroline was just broaching? None. Moving on. I just noticed that our main speaker just signed on. Hi, Maroni. Good to see you.
Hello, everybody. Sorry I'm a bit late.
No, timing is perfect because we had a lot of other business to attend to in the first part. So our first part was longer than expected. So this is working out to the best. Quickly running through our upcoming events. Rep Hong's office hours Tuesday, May 20th at 6 to 8 at Collard Memorial. Let's Talk Lowell, May 22nd at LTC, Progressive Mass Lobby Day. May 28th at the State House, 350 of Greater Lowell, May 28th, 7 to 8:30 at LTC. Rep Howard's office hours, May 30th, 11:30 to 12:30, location to be determined. LTLC Steps to Home, June 7 at 225 Middlesex Street, Lowell Pride. June 7, everything is happening at June 7 at the Lowell Heritage State Park. Acre Fest on the same day at North Common. Mass Alliance Grassroots Campaign Training in Lowell, June 7 and 8. Our Phone Bank, June 9th. Mill City Messaging, June 12th. DD&D, June 13th. So if anybody is bored in June, here's a long list of things that you might want to consider participating in to keep you busy.
Is there a place online where people can find all that? Because I'm not going to memorize it.
Ron, it's in the weekly email.
I know that, but maybe some of the people listening.
And it's on the website on the events page, which is at the bottom of the screen.
Excellent. So it's in many places and everybody can find it.
John has his hand up, by the way.
Yes, John.
Yeah, I learned on Friday looking at the city council agenda that the city is holding a town hall meeting on May 28th from 6:30 to 8, which probably will end up replacing the 350 mass meeting because it's a meeting about the geothermal heating and the project that they started at UMass Lowell that they had to take down because it didn't work out. So geothermal heating is a major, is going to have to play a major part of the energy transition. It also can solve some of the energy affordability issues. And I would encourage anybody who's free to come out to that town hall meeting. It's the city is doing it. It's at Coburn Hall, which is Coburn Hall Auditorium, which is 850 Broadway, room 255. And we need to show this, the planners that people want this or are interested in it. And so showing up for a few minutes would help. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right.
What time is that at?
6:30, it's 6:30 to 8, but and you know, there wouldn't necessarily be a reason to stay the whole time.
All right.
And that information is available in the City Hall minutes because it was it's an emotion response to the geothermal issue.
Okay, great, thank you. Anybody else? Allied group updates and announcements. I feel like we've done most of those.
I'd just like to throw out that the llamas, they had needed to give a lot of people a lot of help after the latest camp raid, and they're pretty tapped and could use donations.
Good point.
I was gonna throw out, just after the city council meeting, and the talks about funding, there is a bill in the State House, that we might reach out to our, well, it's all of our state reps have co-sponsored. We might also reach out to Senator Kennedy about, it's on the progressive mass agenda already, but it's S388, an act to fix the Chapter 70 inflation adjustment, which basically just, it's a really quick fix to make sure that state education funding keeps pace with inflation. So, you know, it doesn't increase it at all, just keeps pace with inflation. So that'd be something to reach out to Senator Kennedy about if you're interested.
All right, thank you. And right on time, our guest speaker for today, Maroni Minter from MIRA Coalition. Maroni is a proud immigrant born and raised in, I hope I'm not mispronouncing that, Gabon, West Africa. He moved to the United States in 2004, lived in Vermont for 20 years before he moved to Boston last year when he accepted the political director position at MIRA. Prior to joining MIRA, he was Activism Manager at Ben & Jerry's and also served as the campaign director for the ACLU of Vermont. Please type your question in the chat or use the raise hand function in Zoom during this presentation. Maroni, the stage is yours, as they say.
Can you all hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, again, I apologize for joining late, but I certainly appreciate you all giving me the space here to have this conversation with you all. As was said, my name is Maroni, and I am a proud immigrant from Gabon, West Africa, and I'm the political director with Massachusetts Immigrant Advocacy Coalition, MIRA, Massachusetts Immigrant and Refugee Advocacy Coalition. And I guess I'm here to talk about what we are currently doing to fight for our immigrant communities. So MIRA is a statewide or nonprofit organization. We are the largest organization advocating for the rights and inclusion of all immigrants throughout the Commonwealth. And so we are an organization, we are a member-based organization. We have 150 plus member organizations. And so early on, when during the presidential election, actually when the election ended, when we found out who will be our current president, we had our annual member where MIRA member overwhelmingly voted that what we should be thinking about and prioritizing right now with this with this administration, we know that there are so many issues that are facing immigrant communities right now. But considering the the administration that we are living in right now, our members overwhelmingly voted for MIRA to prioritize protecting our immigrant communities. And so we launched our campaign early this year called exactly that, Protecting Immigrant Communities campaign. And so under our campaign, we're trying to pass 2 key legislation. We have also been doing tons and tons. I heard someone mention early MIRA training, but we've been doing lots of hundreds and hundreds of training, making sure that people understand that regardless of their immigration status, they have rights and when to exercise those rights. So in addition to just doing the training, we have 2 main legislation that we're trying to pass. One of them, some of you may be familiar already, because it's something we've been pushing on for a few years now, and that is the Safe Communities Act. And the Safe Communities Act is really a bill that would limit the participation of our police, our courts, and our correctional facilities, and federal immigration enforcement, while also guaranteeing basic rights. So the bill has about 4 key provisions. One is it would prohibit law enforcement from questioning about someone's immigration status. And this is a very, very important provision of the bill, because what this does is really it enables immigrants, workers, domestic violence survivors, and tenants and other abuse from tenants and other to be reported. Right now, we know that there are immigrants who are victims of crimes, but because of their immigration status, they are not reporting these crimes because they're afraid of being questioned and potentially being deported, right? So this is a very, very critical and important provision in the bill. And the second provision of the bill is really about protecting the basic rights, right? What is called the Miranda right. And the idea here is that this would require informed and written consent before any ICE interview in police, courts, or correctional custody, right? So the idea is that if someone's in custody, ICE, the first thing that they do is to say, hey, you have the right to remain silent, you have the right to call your lawyer, and so forth. Because right now that is not the case, right? And the third provision of the bill is really about protecting access to justice in court. And this provision bans police and court officers from alerting ICE to a person's pending release from custody, except at the end of a sentence of incarceration, right? So the idea here is that we know that current police undermines our court system by allowing ICE to detain police before they have their day in court, right? Which again denies justice to victims and defendants. So this would change that. And the fourth and last provision is really, some of you may be familiar with that 287G agreement. And this would end contract with ICE that allows corrections personnel to act as federal immigration agents, right? So we know right now Massachusetts is the only New England state with 287G contracts. I know that New Hampshire is just signing a bunch of them, right? So this will prevent the state from signing any new contract. So these are all the provisions in the Safe Communities Act. The second bill that I want to talk about is the Immigrant Legal Defense Act. And this is a bill that we just introduced this year. And this is a very, very important bill because right now, when we're talking about immigration court, there are no government paid lawyers, right? So despite the complexity of the US immigration laws, immigrants who cannot afford lawyers and who are facing deportation proceeding without a lawyer are forced to navigate this complex system alone. And sometimes that leaves them being highly vulnerable to deportation. So what this does, the bill is calling on the state to invest in legal services, right? And the bill would create a program with public and private funding to provide low-cost legal services to low-income immigrants who are facing deportation proceeding. This is, again, very, very important, as you all are aware that this administration has ramped up its deportations, right? And so there are a lot of families who are caught up right now in this system who just cannot afford a lawyer. The idea here is to be able to help those families who are in deportation proceedings and just can't afford a lawyer. A lot of states have done this, and we're just trying to follow footsteps of other states. And I should say that I'm excited to share that the House budget, right, what this bill is calling for, we're asked for 10 million to be invested in this program. The House's budget actually included 5 million to go into this program. Unfortunately, the Senate budget did not include anything in its budget. That said, we have filed an amendment, amendment number 847, state budget, and we're getting good traction. Lots of legislators have sponsored that amendment. And we feel pretty confident that this on the Senate side, we might get more than 5 million, I should say. So we're hoping to get 10 million. Whatever we get, it'll be a good start. So before I stop, I just want to say that, again, the Safe Communities Act and the Immigrant Legal Defense Act, these are really critical bills right now that we need to pass to protect immigrants while also making sure that they have access to legal representation in court. So I will just urge you that one of the ways that you can help right now is by contacting your legislators, both your state representative and your senator, to urge them to support and pass both of these bills. You know, it's one thing that we are out there in the building, but it makes a huge difference when legislators are hearing from their constituents. And it's not just reaching out to them and say, hey, I want you to support this. They need to hear why it matters to you. So when you reach out, tell them why these bills matter to you, why it matters to you that we protect immigrant communities right now. The other thing I want to say is something that we're really supporting that I'm very passionate about personally, and that is the expansion of I-10, right? There is this notion out there that immigrants don't contribute, don't pay taxes. And I want to say that we do pay taxes. That goes all the way to undocumented immigrants who pay taxes and do not get that money back. So expanding I-10 would actually make sure that immigrants who pay taxes can get that money back at the end of the year. So that's something that we are also supporting, that I will also urge you to talk with your representative and senators about. I will support there. I'll stop there and see if there are any questions.
All right, thank you. Check us. Any questions or comments? Ozo.
Hi, Maroni. Thanks for sharing. I just want to be clear on what you said. Did you say there's no public defenders for immigrants?
No,
None.
right? Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Unlike in any other cases, right? If you can afford a lawyer, usually you are assigned a public, as you said, public defender. And in an immigration case, that's not the case. In immigration court, that is not the case. So yes, that's correct.
Is that for the hearings before the so-called immigration judges, which are not, they're not like normal federally confirmed judges, they're like appointees? Is that for those hearings where that's the case?
Yeah, but I should say that what I'm talking about specifically are for detention proceedings, right? There are no immigration judge or nothing for folks who are actually facing deportation. I should say deportation, not detention, deportation proceedings specifically.
The loophole that they use there is that deportation proceedings are officially categorized as civil, not criminal. And so you have the right to an attorney when you're in a criminal trial. But even though these consequences are as serious or more serious as what you can get under a criminal conviction, they're still being treated as just a civil trial. So you're not entitled to the free attorney.
Correct.
Hi, thank you, Maroni. Like, I have a question about how the situation right now, like you say, like the immigration don't have like a lawyer. What happened if the I caught up, and how long they stay in the jail, or how long they deportation?
Sorry, can you please repeat that again? I literally had this motorcycle go by my house as you were speaking.
Like, my question is like the situation right now. I saw like they say, okay, when the I come caught up that immigration, most of the time they will say, oh, the criminal do you really like exactly criminal or they just like caught the immigration? I just want to make sure, like my first question. And my other question about how the fund for the immigration, for example, some immigration don't have money to hire a lawyer, how long they stay in the jail and how long they deport?
Yeah, let me answer the second question first. Right now, it depends, right? Like if folks don't have a lawyer, they stay as long as the government want to keep them in detention. And what is scary right now is for people who don't have a lawyer, we know that there are cases, even folks who have been shipped out of Massachusetts, that's even more impossible. So if you do not have a lawyer, the government is refusing, right? The federal government is even refusing to interact with the state. They're refusing to share any information at all about the people that they are picking. So if you don't have a lawyer, it's even worse, right? Like you have nobody looking out for you, nobody speaking up for you, right? So this is really why it's important. And I should also say that what's really good about this program, this bill, is if you are an immigrant you picked here and shipped out to a different state, you will still be able to access this legal services and that wherever you are. So this money will be able to support you in whatever they ship you. So which is what's really good about the language in this bill. Sorry, can you remind me the first part of your question again?
My first question, like I saw like most of when I caught up the immigration, they saw, oh, you criminal. But back up in my mind, like, are you find out the truth are the criminal or what?
The reality is that was the biggest lie ever told to all of us, right? And the truth is there are a lot of immigrants who bought that lie too. There are a lot of immigrants who voted for this guy. A lot of them I talked to, and they would say during the campaign, right? Like, he's only talking about criminals. He's not gonna come after me. He's not coming after my family. We're not criminals. But the truth is, how they define crime or criminal when it comes to immigrant is totally different, right? Even a civil offense right now, if you're an immigrant, that is a crime. So anything that it would do, even a civil violation when you're an immigrant, that is a crime for you. So how they define crime when it comes to immigrant versus citizen or the people, I should say, is totally different. So coming after criminal is one of the biggest lie ever sold. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who voted for him, as I said, immigrant, my own friends, who are now regretting it. And they are seeing that they're coming after non-criminal, innocent people who don't deserve this. So.
I'd like to add something on that question, because the way I've been told is that the reason that they can call them criminals, anybody that doesn't have the sufficient paperwork, is that entry without sufficient paperwork into the United States is a misdemeanor. Now, a misdemeanor is for most of us like nothing, but if undocumented immigrant, the mere fact that you're coming in undocumented or with incomplete documentation is considered a misdemeanor, and the current administration is using that misdemeanor in itself. So any undocumented immigrant, by their definition, whether they have led a perfectly wonderful life here, never even done anything such as jaywalk or cross a red light or anything, they are still considered a criminal because they entered the country with incomplete documentation. Now, it's a misdemeanor like jaywalking, which usually nobody gets deported for. But in case of undocumented immigrants, that's their loophole. That's why they can say criminals. But just what you just said, Maroni, and I've heard that from others, that they were saying, oh, but we are not criminals. We are just immigrants. They're just coming after the violent criminals. As a matter of fact, in the most recent, and I see you, I'm almost there. In the most recent ICE activity, when the agent in Lowell, some of the trained ICE watchers went out and asked them why they were here and what they were doing. And they said they were doing a sweep here to pick up violent criminals, which was a bald-faced lie. That's not what they were doing, but they're hiding behind that. And I'll stop now, and I didn't see who came up first. Mitch?
Yeah, I mean, one of the unfortunate things that they've done is that they've targeted people who had everything in order and had no offenses whatsoever. But they've claimed that the federal government has the authority to revoke visas. So what they've done is they've revoked visas without notice and then arrested you for being here illegally. So they in essence created your illegal, quote unquote, illegal circumstances out of nothing. And Stephen Miller in the administration has a team of people whose job is to identify people and do this to. You know, so that was the case that happened with the woman in Somerville. Was you know, she was here on a visa. She had no legal problems whatsoever. They revoked her visa and then arrested her for being here illegally. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I want to call a spade, right? I don't think, people are saying this administration is anti-immigrant, Donald Trump is anti-immigrant. I don't necessarily think that he's anti-immigrant. I think he's anti-Black and brown immigrant. And that's what it is. It comes down to that a lot of this administration, there is this belief out there that the white population is going to be in the minority, and they scare the hell out of a lot of people, and which I wonder why. I mean, what is it? But you pay attention to, you saw that they brought a lot of white African American, South African, right? So it's not that they are anti-immigrant. It's about who they want to be here, right? And so I think it's important for us to keep that and call it what it is when we can.
Well, it comes down to the very ugly word of ethnic cleansing. In my mind, that's what they're trying to do. Ron?
And as long as we're talking about it, even before all this was going on, something like 80% of the undocumented immigrants came here with full legal status. It's not like we had a flood of people sneaking across the border, etc. Most people who end up undocumented or having unresolved status come here legally, and then something happens, which they find out that their country's government's been overthrown or something else happens, and then they end up here in the United States without a status, usually because something happened where they came from, not because of something they did. And so the entire narrative that we've got a bunch of people sneaking into the country who are undocumented because they want to sneak into the country is really, it's always been wrong. Like 4/5 of them are here, people who came here legally, and then something happened and they lost their status.
Yeah, so I guess I'll ask, given the kind of reaching of, I guess, given the actions of the federal government right now, and given the skipping of due process and how we've been, the courts are pushing back on that and everything, but, given all this, we have this amendment 847. And so I wanted to kind of get an idea of like how we concretely can help. Like I know, so at the House budget level, Maroni, you said that they did include funding for this immigrant defense fund. Is that right?
Yeah, it's Immigrant Legal Defense Act. It's the name of the bill. So the House included $5 million. Unfortunately, the Senate did not, but we have Senator Gomez filed an amendment 847, which a lot of senators are sponsoring. Usually we feel we feel good on the Senate side, but you never know, right? I think that the more they can hear from folks, just the better. But we're hoping that we can get more than 5 million from the Senate side.
If you reach out to our senators then on that.
Yeah.
That was Senator Gomez from, was it Springfield?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, don't quote me, let me double check. I don't want to get that wrong.
Meanwhile, any other questions, comments? Okay,
Yeah. Well, I don't want to pull Maroni's attention in
Right.
two places, so maybe I'll wait.
Right.
Yeah, sorry.
So things usually go sideways.
Yeah, Senator Gomez is from Ward 1 in Springfield.
Okay, thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for being me too.
So my follow-up was there's also this, so that's one, that Amendment 847 putting pressure on Senator Kennedy. And then the other was the Safe Communities Act, right? As far as I know, and I just checked, all of our state reps and Senator Kennedy have co-sponsored that, which is pretty cool. What would you like, I guess, for us to do next?
So that's good. So all the stakeholders that we have been advised to make sure we have their support as advised by legislators is the district attorneys and chief of police and including sheriffs. So if you know your DA, please reach out to them and talk to them about supporting the Safe Communities Act. I think one of the things that's really important to talk to them about is, this is really about creating the trust between law enforcement and the community. As I said in there, one of the provision about not asking about someone's immigration status, right? We know right now, we had a immigration day at the State House a couple months ago, and I was talking to Representative Senator Freeman about this. And one of our constituents who's an immigrant walked in and told her story about being a victim of domestic abuse, and for years kept this to herself because she was afraid of being deported if she approached law enforcement. And she came and told her story, and actually her story moved the senator in a positive way. So again, really, this is about building that trust between law enforcement and community. So if you know your DA, if you don't know, please try to figure out who they are, reach out. Your chief of police, reach out. If we can get the DAs on board, that makes a huge difference for legislators.
Is there like a certain deliverable that we would ask of them? Like ask that they make a public statement, or like, what would we ask them to do?
So I can share specific language that people have been using, reaching out to DAs. Basically, you reach out, you talk to them about the Safe Communities Act, and then why it matters to you, to immigrant people in your town, and just ask them to support it. I can tell you that one of our champion DA, DA Ryan, he has actually committed to talking to other DA, trying to get them on board, being a spokesperson for the campaign. He's committed to coming to testify at the State House. So if you get them on board, they want to support, the next level is for them to speak up, right? If they want to put out a public statement, they want to reach out to other DA. They have influence. DA have influence over law enforcement as well. So they can be a spokesperson for other DA and someone reaching out to law enforcement and coming to testify. DA Ryan actually wrote a really good long op-ed in his local newspaper saying, I support this, and actually bashing this administration, right? It's not just, and I should say just, I'm here talking about immigrants, but what this administration is doing is going beyond just immigrants. So if you care about the rule of law, right, and DA Ryan took this approach, it's like, it's not just about immigrant that is violating their rights, but look what he's doing. Right, when we're talking about the rule of law, I mentioned earlier about we've been doing a lot of these training, know your right training, and I was speaking at Brandeis University a couple of weeks ago, and actually students asked me this question, which I had a hard time responding, right? Which was, well, yes, I've been doing all this training about knowing my rights, but what happened when they knock my door down? What happened when my window gets smashed and they come in, they don't give my chance to even exercise my rights? Like, what happened, right? And so I think right now we are in a constitutional crisis, right? And I think we can all agree that a law is only a law if we all obey to it, right? The judicial system can only stay if we actually respect the rules of the judges, right? The prosecutors. That is not the case right now. And so I think that the DAs, like, they get that, right? It's not just that he's going after immigrant, he's coming after all of us. He's coming after the rule of law, he's coming after education. So we have to look at it. Sometimes I feel like immigrants were just a distraction from all the destruction that he's doing to this country. So it's not just us, he's coming after all of us in different ways.
Judging by the time, one more question, Mitch.
Are you referring to Middlesex County District Attorney Marion Ryan?
No, I was referring to Dave. No. Actually, yeah. So that was. I'm glad you asked that. She was in support in the past, but I think there is a lot of politics, right? Even some of the people who have supported this in the past have said, I still support it, but please don't tell people, or I don't want to be public about it, because they are worried about the politics, right? So I would say that's someone we're actually trying to get back on board. So if you can reach out, so I got the names mixed up. I was referring to DA Sullivan, not Ryan, Sullivan. So thank you for asking that.
Okay, I'm just being a reminder, we have 4 minutes left, so John Grossman, last chance.
Yeah, the only Lowell legislator that has not co-signed the Safe Communities Act, according to the state legislative website, is Rodney Elliott. And we should really do something about that.
Ed has?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
it's
say,
nice.
Yeah, Ed did actually. He's on there now.
All right.
I'm gonna,
We got that last legislative session out of it.
oh yeah, I'm gonna check, because I don't know why the Progressive Mass website says that Elliot has co-sponsored, so maybe we should follow up.
Might have been the last time around, maybe.
Okay.
What's his name? Elliot?
Rodney Elliott, yeah.
Rodney Elliot.
I'm just looking at the House 2580 website now.
Yeah.
It's not always up to date, I suppose. So John Coleman,
Yeah.
something
And
good.
I also have my own tracker of the sponsors, and he definitely has not sponsored according to my tracker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a few of our reps here. So that give us something to do.
All right. Ryan, quickly.
The relationship between Lowell's police department and various marginalized groups has been getting more and more difficult in recent years. I was wondering, can you suggest any more points of leverage on this?
So, sorry, say it again.
Oh, are there any more points of leverage with police departments to get them to respect immigrant rights that you can suggest?
I would say, like, trying to figure out who. Sometimes, police listen to the people they're close to, right? A lot of this requires some power mapping, whether it's their spouse, right? So finding a way to get around that, figure out who the people that they hang out with. I think in my experience, if you can get a chief of police, if you can get even one, like when we did the driver's license, one of the things that we learned is that sometimes a lot of police, not all police are bad, right? There are actually good police officers who are out there, just they want to be allies, but they have never been approached because they think everybody look at them as like they're the enemies, right? And what we found out is when we actually approach some of the police officers, like, hey, there's this bill, like you should be supporting it. They were like, oh my God, really? I'm on board. Nobody's ever approached me. Like, we think that people just think we're the enemies, right? So if you can get that one police officer and now get them to be the one talking to others, we have found that to be the most effective. And don't be afraid to approach them, like even on the street. Like I said, a lot of them think that we think of as an enemy. And sometimes if you approach them, trying to get them as an ally, right, on your side, they actually love it. Like a lot of times they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm actually being approached and being asked to support something. So don't be afraid to approach them even on the street. And if you can get that one, then now make them to be the one talking to others.
Thank you. I like to be mindful of the time, so unless there's another pressing question.
Pressing point about
Sure.
this particular system. The entire issue is people do not understand the 287G agreements and what the problem is, and that includes police officers, the general public, the whole bit. Our opponents have painted this as we're going to be nice to criminal immigrants and other kinds of things. They've got a lot of bull crap that they're saying. We need to explain to people that the US Constitution promises due process to every single person standing in US soil, regardless of immigration status or citizenship, and that the 287G agreements violate that premise of the Constitution. And that's the reason why they have to be opposed. Sorry, I just wanted to be really, really crystal clear here.
Okay, thank you. All right, 7:02, we like to. Now, Amy, if I remember how to do this.
Well, first we should thank Maroni. We really appreciate you coming.
Thank you all so much, and thank you all for being allies. I truly appreciate and it warms my heart to see that you all care to bring me to this space, to see that you are willing to advocate on behalf of immigrants community. This is not, as I said, this is not just a fight for immigrants, this is a fight for all of us. So thank you all for willing to be allies. Certainly appreciate you all.
Thank you for coming and.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good work,
Thank
please.
you.
Thank you.
All right. Coming to a close for today, the next meeting will be on Sunday, June 22nd, the usual time, 5:30 to 7, at our usual location, namely right here at UCC Drake or on Zoom. And you can join us online on our Facebook page, in our Facebook group. You can visit our website, solidaritylowell.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, Threads. Anywhere you can think of, we are there. And you can watch recordings of our meetings on YouTube at Solidarity Lowell and on LTC. Thank you for attending today. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.